Hello, everyone. Today, we are very excited to have Greg Baker with us. He is the owner and senior project manager of Movement Consulting. Hey, thanks to be here. Welcome to PathForward, Greg.
Thanks for having me, Jackie. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. Welcome here. I just noticed a very interesting fact about your company, Movement Consulting. You don't even have a website for your company.
Oh man, we're going to start with that.
Yes!
I think we went down the road of building one. I probably have all the information to put it together, but the way that business works, we had never really relied on a website or really any social media, almost any media or advertising at all for getting business. I've been around for 25 years doing consulting work, and almost all the work that we have got has come through personal contacts or from references from other work that we've done. So yes, it's true. We don't have a website.
Yeah, I find it that's amazing, in this time of the age, it's like every single company have like a website, even B2B business, business to business, even though them, a lot of time they have a website, but you actually don't. So I'm just kind of like, wow, this is really special. It's like, must be really good at his job. But anyway, your firm manage project that implement payroll and HR system.
Correct.
For large company,
yeah,
like Duke Energy, I think that's one of them, which is like Fortune 150 company. And then you also have Interior Corporation, 1.3 billion market capitalization, and 123 dentists, over 400 practice partnership, and like large company like
pretty
this.
Big companies usually.
So a lot of time, the system needs to work from coast to coast, whether in the US or in Canada.
Yeah.
Because the size of your client, is it common for your project to occupy a large chunk of your resources, or even all the resources and all the time for you or for your company?
Yeah, very common.
Very common.
I would say probably at our busiest time, my busiest time, I might have 2 projects on the go, maybe a third small one. But a lot of the time I would have 1 project on the go, and I would be dedicated full time to managing that project.
Okay.
I always like that, just from kind of my personality. I like to concentrate on kind of one thing at a time, and I feel like if I get pulled in too many directions, I get a little bit all over the place.
Okay.
But yeah, that's quite typical for us to have kind of one big project going on at a time.
What's the length for each project that you have?
Oh man, it could be, probably if we're doing a large payroll HR implementation, that might be a year. Okay. So I would say typically kind of 8 months to maybe 18 months, somewhere in there. Yeah.
Okay. Do you ever worry about the next client? Because if I'm you, I only have 1 client for all this time, all these resources, I would be kind of worried. So how do you find your client? I mean, like when you're like working on this project, all your focus is on there, then how do you obtain your next client? What do you do?
Yeah, so to answer your first question, yes, always on my mind. Always on my mind. So I'm always, as I'm working on a project, I'm very conscious of the fact that this project is going to come to an end, whatever it is, 6 months or 8 months from where we are right now. And what is the next one? Where is the next one coming from? I think I've always been very fortunate that I've had almost zero downtime in almost 25 years.
Wow.
So the next project has always come. I try, my personality is I try not to be a worrier and worry about where the next one is coming. But it has always come. But it is always in the back of my mind for sure. Okay. And I think that's one of the risks of doing consulting work like that, is that, there have been times where a customer says partway through a project, you know what, business needs have changed, or economics have changed, or whatever it is, economy is down, we're going to curtail this project. Potentially, I have some of that written into the contract that they got to give me some notice, but potentially they could give me 4 weeks notice and I could be out of work. So,
wow.
Yeah. So it's a lesson in sort of, I don't know, not being fearful about, but at the same time, like I have a wife and 3 kids who need to eat. So, always kind of on the back of my mind that I'm looking towards the next one.
Okay. Specifically though, then what do you do, since each project that you have has an end date.
Yeah.
Then during the time that you're running, like, this particular project, then how do you find the next client though?
Yeah, it's as I say, I don't do a lot of direct advertising or general advertising out to the market because our projects are quite niche. See, we manage payroll implementations and HR systems implementations. And for me, I would typically work with a specific vendor who's out there providing payroll software. So my market is pretty niche. So I always felt that advertising to a broad audience was less effective for us. Because I need to talk to specific people who have specific needs. And so as the years went on and I built up kind of more and more contacts, yeah, I wouldn't be against picking up the phone and saying to, a VP of HR, hey, could I take you out for lunch? Or somebody that I'd met kind of through the industry. Hey, could I come and introduce myself and just let you know kind of the work that we do so that in the future, if you were ever to look at this type of work or looking at replacing your payroll system, then you might think of me, or the time might be right for us to get together. So kind of just expanding my area of contacts, but very specific contacts. Like I would tend to get hired by either a VP of HR or sometimes a VP of finance or a senior VP of finance. And so those are the kind of people that I was always looking around to see, do I know these people? Can I meet more of these people out there? But coming back to the website, I never felt like having a website would be something where they were Googling, hey, I need a payroll consultant, and they would find me. That almost never happens in our industry. So
that's kind of interesting, actually. So in a sense, networking is very important for your job. For your field, I guess, in a sense, because it's like oftentimes you have to talk to like executive level people, and not that many of them around. I would imagine very specific group of people. Right. I know you. Honestly, I cannot think of you as a very actively networking or cold calling people kind of person.
By this. I'm an introvert, right? So I am an introvert by nature. I am happy to talk to people, but it is not my nature to go out and be very social with people. But I think you have to make a decision at some point in your career life is what do you want out of your career and what does it take to get there? And so if you want to have this type of career where you need to go out and be connecting with anyone, executives or managers or whoever it is, that's a skill you have to learn. And then once you learn the skill, it's something that you kind of sometimes have to force yourself to do. It doesn't come naturally to you. I remember when I was younger and trying to find a job, out of school or a summer job, my dad would give me a few names of his friends where he'd say, listen, you should call these guys. I don't know if they have a job, but they would be good contacts to have. And I was like petrified of picking up the phone and calling people because that just wasn't my nature. But it's something that I think, like I said, if that's what you want, I think sometimes to be successful in life, you have to learn to do things that aren't your nature and are more difficult for you.
But did you have a time you train yourself to be better at networking, or in a sense doing sales, right? Essentially networking is, in essence, it's like you want to close a business. Right.
So early on in my career, before I kind of settled into the consulting world, I had a sales job. And I was terrible at it because I was scared to pick up the phone and call people. But I learned in that job that kind of what I said, sometimes you have to do things that are not comfortable for you. And sometimes you have to grow up a little bit and say, well, I'm scared, but I'm still going to do it. That job for me, I kind of feel to this day that everyone should have a sales job somewhere in their career. Even if you're not a salesperson or a really outgoing person. Because I think I learned a lot about what it takes to be successful in business or just to be successful in terms of interpersonal relationships by having a sales job and understanding that I would have to pick up a phone and call somebody, and then I'm going to have to ask them to do something. And kind of just that process was very good for me. I wasn't great at that job, but that was kind of a good stepping stone for me that I continued to learn what it would take to kind of be successful in the business that I want it to be.
Okay. I think before we get into, I think this is actually a good leeway to kind of lead to, to know more about the history of like how you build your career. But before that, I just want to ask though, what is the one lesson one big lesson perhaps, you have learned from this sales position?
Well, I guess there's a saying out there that says everything you want in life is outside of your comfort level. I think there's an awful lot of truth to that statement. I really do. And everybody's comfort level is different, and the things that make them feel uncomfortable are different. But I think that the successful people that I see in the business world are able to push past what maybe they feel uncomfortable doing, because they know that that's what they have to do in order to be successful. Yeah. And that's, like I said, that's going to be different things for different people. Yeah. But I think if you're always somebody who values being comfortable and being secure and kind of being safe and do the things that I like to do, you're going to find that your ceiling is pretty low in terms of what you're going to be able to do. And I think successful people are able to push through that feeling of being uncomfortable. And that's something, I have teenage kids now, and that's something that I try to instill in them a little bit, is that, okay, well, listen, whatever it is, like even if you need to go talk to a teacher to ask why you got a certain grade on an exam, that's uncomfortable for them. But it's something that would be really good for them in terms of, well, hey, I want the outcome, which is, I think I might get owed 2 more marks on this exam, but I have to go through the discomfort of approaching my teacher and talking about this subject. So it can start small, but I think always be prepared to kind of step out of that comfort zone and do stuff that maybe scares you a little bit. But there's an awful lot, there's a huge world outside of your own comfort zone. And I think that's the one thing that, if I was talking to somebody who was younger, to encourage them not to be afraid of stepping out.
Okay. Now, think back when you were Zoe or Zach's age, which is your son and your daughter, your twin, about 17, I guess.
They're 16.
They're 16, 17. Yep. What was your dream and your plan back in that time?
Oh, I had no plan. I feel like sometimes my entire career has been kind of like, we'll see what happens next and we'll go with it. I don't really have a plan. I was, at that time, I would have been in high school. Yeah. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't have a driving passion in terms of what I wanted to study at university. My parents always encouraged me strongly to go to university. They let me pick kind of whatever. I ended up doing a business degree, I think partially just because my dad was a business guy and had a business degree. But there was no big plan. At one point, I considered going to med school. And then I went to university, and a number of my friends actually went to med school, and they studied an awful lot. And I was like, I am not committed to studying this much. So I was out having fun, and they eventually all became doctors, and I did not.
Oh, really?
But that would not have been a good fit for me anyways. I don't think that was okay. But I didn't really have a plan, to be honest.
You didn't really think like, okay, this is my passion. Not that guy.
No, I have a lot of I have a lot of respect for people that have a real passion early in life. I never really did.
Okay, it's not you. But you were a very good student, right?
I was a good student. Yeah, I was an A student. So I was a very good student. I had no problem getting into university. But as I said, in terms of having a passion to study something, I think if I went back, I don't think I would study the same thing that I studied, to be honest. But
okay. So would you say studying is kind of like comes natural to you?
I think there are people that things come quickly to. I am one of those people. There are other people who work hard to also achieve good results. I have become more of that kind of person. But when I was 17, 18, I was a lazy smart guy, is how I would describe myself.
A lazy smart guy. Okay. Yeah. Okay. But what do you feel about studying business though? Like, how do you feel about what were you thinking about? Since that's like more like, your father was saying, well, hey, he's a businessman, why don't you go to school,
Yeah, he actually didn't even really encourage me to go get a business degree. So
really?
I have a business degree from Sauder School of Business at UBC. But my dad was kind of like, you should go to university, but study whatever you want to. He never forced me to go in there. Like I said, I think I just went there because it's what I kind of knew growing up. Like my dad got up in the morning, went to the office. My dad worked for IBM. So he got up, went into the office every morning, came back, did business stuff. I don't even know what he did at work, right? And but that's kind of what I knew, right?
Okay.
So I think if my dad had been a doctor or worked in forestry or did something else, maybe that would have been a draw just because you know what that is. But I think I ended up going to business school just because that's what I saw every day with my dad going off to work.
So what was his position? What's your father's position actually?
Well, he had a number of different roles at IBM, but he came up through the sales side of the organization.
Okay.
He was a sales manager at one point. Then he moved over and did kind of what they call systems integration, which is a little bit more like project management, implementation of systems later on in his career. But he had a number of different roles.
Okay, but he started as a salesperson too.
Yeah, he started off in sales. I think it was very common in IBM back in the day that's where he started in the organization.
Okay. So what was your focus though? Even though you go to business school, you have to pick a focus, kind of like your major.
I had a major in marketing.
Okay.
Yeah, hated every minute of it. I have no idea why I picked marketing, honestly. I am more of a numbers guy. I think if I went back, I'd probably be an accountant or a finance guy. I have no idea why I picked marketing. Actually, that's not true. I know why I picked marketing. It's because my dad at one point said all of the senior executives at IBM come up through the marketing side of the organization. And so I distinctly remember him saying that, and I was like, okay, well, I guess marketing is pretty important. We'll go into marketing because I want to be a senior guy one day.
Okay.
I hated marketing, so I don't know.
But don't you think actually what he meant is not so much marketing, it's more like sales?
Well, that's actually what he meant I think they called it sales and marketing at IBM, but it was sales. It was the sales side where you go out, meet with customers, be a sales rep in essence for a company. Yeah, and so he said most of the senior guys came up through the sales side of the organization, but I heard marketing and then did marketing. Like I'm telling you, there was no plan. Okay, like, just whatever. How can I describe this to you? Yeah, a 10-second conversation with my dad, and I chose my major. So
he just very casually kind of mentioned it.
I remember he just mentioned it.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, but that would be like kind of like his start too, right? He just go out to the field and trying to do sales, and see whether he can close business with different kind of business. That's how he started.
How he started. Yeah, okay. Exactly.
And like what he meant is kind of like that too, right? Even like a lot of those people actually climb up the corporate ladder and then go to senior position.
Well, see, I think there's a lot of truth coming back to I think everybody should have a sales job. I didn't know that at the time, but I think sales is just such great training for people that when you come up through sales and through the sales part of an organization, it sets you up for success, I think, because a lot of those guys understand, like I said, what it takes to be successful in business. I think IBM used to have a saying, or the founder used to say that nothing happens at IBM until somebody sells something. Okay. And there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
That is where business starts. Somebody's got to go out and sell something to somebody, and then a business starts.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So what happened after you finished your degree in UBC, your business degree? What happened?
Yeah, so I'm going to age myself now. I graduated in 1992.
Okay, wow.
But at that time, terrible economy.
Okay.
So I graduate from UBC with my degree, and I don't have a single job offer once I graduate, and neither did anybody else.
Okay.
Because no one was hiring. So this confused my dad to all sorts of things because he graduated at a time where recruiters were lining up at the universities trying to recruit guys.
Yeah.
I did not have a job when I graduated, and my dad actually helped me get a job at IBM where he was working, and that was my first job once I graduated from university. I worked at IBM I was kind of doing admin support for guys who were out doing projects. So I did a bunch of contract work, putting contracts together for them, and a bunch of finance and billing work for them. It was basically an in-office support role for guys out doing.
Okay. Yeah. But when you were out of work, you graduated, nobody's hiring. How did you feel?
I was like, geez, I got some student loans that need to be paid here. It was, it's, when you're, whatever I was, 21 years old, I was living at home still, right? Yeah. So it's not the end of the world. It's not like I got people to support. My parents are still feeding me. I have a roof over my head. But but you want to get out and start doing something with your life. So it was, I'm very thankful to my dad that he helped me get that job. Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by JW Music Studio. We offer piano and guitar lesson in both group and private setting. Group lesson is a great way to ignite a student's musical interest. It offers engaging activities that will reinforce specific skill sets. Ensemble playing will strengthen their rhythmic feeling and listening abilities. Most of all, they will experience the joy of making music with others. Contact us to find out our available schedule. I just want to put things into perspective a little bit too. Right? You know, you were saying the economy was not very great. That was like 1992. So basically all through the 80s, I think the States, I would imagine also in Canada, they go through the stagflation, you know, kind of period, you know. So because of like the oil embargo, like in the late 70s, so like inflation go out of the roof, you know. Then 89, I think they have like a flash crash in the market. Yeah. So then after that, you know, I think they suffer a few years. Oh. Something about me though, when you mention this, I just always feel like it is kind of interesting. I'm born in the middle of 80s. So the funny thing is that actually the period that you were mentioning is a very prosperous time, you know, for Hong Kong. That's where I'm from. Yeah. So I still remember distinctively in the like 89 or 90, this kind of period, you know, my parents would kind of take some toy back home and then you put sticker on it. So that time was a very big thing that, you know, a lot of this factory would take like order from Mattel. I think that time is only Mattel. There's no Hasbro yet. That's what Mattel, and then that's, you know, and then they would just do this kind of very simple job, and then I was like maybe 4 years old. Oh my goodness! Yeah, but it was a very prosperous time because, you know, everyone has chance to get like some extra income. That is like for a lot of family, you know, help them out a lot more, like help them to get ahead a little bit more. Yeah. It's no longer just your husband's working, you know, your wife or whoever have the free time can do it. Yeah. So it was a prosperous time for us. On the other hand, not so much. Maybe that was kind of interesting to me. I never think of it that way actually, but I still remember it actually. Yeah. Okay, then you get a position in IBM. So what did you learn in this position?
Well, I was, you know, fresh out of school. You think you know everything. I was a pretty dumb kid, like in terms of what business was like or what it was. But you know, it wasn't. I knew that job wasn't going to be a long-term job for me. Right? I needed a job, and I was very thankful to have one in a tough time, but it was never something where I looked, gee, I think this might be my passion in life is working in an office doing admin type work. I can remember in that job, and there's a little bit of my personality coming through, is that I had a certain amount of work that needed to get done every day. And my predecessor was a very delightful lady, but she would work from 8:30 in the morning to 4:30 in the evening to get all this work done. I could get the same amount of work done in about 4 hours.
Okay.
So I developed a very bad habit, actually, where I would show up late to the office at IBM. I would get my work done for the day. Yeah. I would leave early.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And you have to understand, like, times are very different now than they were back then. So back then it was very structured and very formal. So I wore a suit to the office every day, even though I never saw a customer ever. And that was what you did. And not only a suit, at IBM, you wore a dark colored suit with a white shirt and maybe a tie with a little bit of color in it. Like it was very traditional. Okay. And so eventually I got pulled aside by the management to say, what's going on here? Like we noticed that you come in late every day and you leave early every day. And I said, well, I was kind of maybe naive. Yeah. But I was like, I'm getting all my work done, aren't I? Like, you should be happy with I'm getting everything done. And they said, that's not the way it works around here, son. It's you come in at 8:30 and you leave at 4:30, and this is the way it is. And I think to me, that was maybe a little bit of, I'm not sure that being a corporate guy is really what I'm designed to be. Because it didn't make any sense to me that I should have to sit at my desk for a few hours in the morning and a few hours in the afternoon, in essence doing nothing because I've completed everything that needs to be done. And that just didn't make a lot of sense to me. And I think that was kind of like the first little bit of, I don't know if maybe working for somebody else or the big corporation is really what I'm designed to do.
Okay.
And so I kind of maybe when I had the first thoughts of, I should try something else and I should do something else with my life.
But at that point, you're still not very sure, like, okay, well, what does that look like? What do you want to try?
No idea. No idea. I just knew that working for some guy that made up some dumb rules was maybe not exactly what I wanted to do.
Yeah. A disclaimer though, like, I mean, nowadays IBM will be very different than
it changed. It actually changed dramatically even while I was there.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think it's very interesting to see how business has changed through, in the last 50 years or whatever it's been.
Okay.
But yeah, it's very different now at IBM. Yeah. It's certainly not like that at IBM now.
Okay. But how did you lose this position though? Eventually, how did you stop working in this position?
Yeah, it was kind of, my job actually wasn't hired as a full-time regular employee. I was hired as a temporary contract. So I was a contract but full-time. And then after about 3 years, they said, well, we have a company policy in IBM that we can't keep contract people more than 3 years. So we're letting you go.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, okay. It was, I think at that point I was like, it was probably good for me to move on anyways.
Okay.
But funnily enough, they just hired another contract guy to come in and do the job that I was doing. So I always thought that was a little weird too. And it was just like, here's more corporate rules that I'm like, it just didn't make a lot of sense to me.
Okay. Yeah. So what happened to the person that come after you? Is it also like he left after 3 years, or what?
I think they might have hired him full time, actually. It irked me off even more. I think it was like, they didn't want me, but they wanted that guy. I don't know. At that point, I was like, it's just good for me to be out of here. Okay. I think it was like the kick out of the nest that I probably needed, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you also like kind of feel like I should go try something.
Yeah, I knew that was not a passion of mine. And kind of in that time frame while working at IBM, I had started to develop maybe a little bit more of a passion towards financial planning and investing. And so I was kind of thinking that maybe that might be an avenue that I might want to try after I left IBM.
Okay, so that's exactly my next question. Then what did you do after this?
So what I did was I actually took a job at London Life. So they have been bought since by a larger...
I think it's Power Corporation bought them or something like that. Exactly. I don't remember.
So that industry has gone through a bunch of consolidation. But at the time it was London Life. They were a life insurance company. They sold life insurance was their primary. But at that time, a lot of the banks and the financial institutions were getting into the investing side with mutual funds, which was kind of new at that point. So in essence, I was a financial planner at London Life, and I sold life insurance and mutual funds there.
Yeah.
And it was, that was my first that was my sales job. And I don't think I even realized that it was a sales job when I took the job. Because I was like, oh, financial planner, that sounds good. I want to be one of those. And then they were like, okay, well, you're on 100% commission now. So you get no salary and you only get paid if you sell stuff. Okay, well, this sounds like a salesman, but it was really good. I will say the training that I got at London Life was some of the best training I've ever received anywhere along the way. Oh. So they sent us off to sales school in London, Ontario for like 4 weeks or something. Like it was a long time. Yeah. And they taught us what it meant to be a salesperson. The process, they had a very good, well laid out process that they had, like all the way down to scripts that you would memorize for different situations, how to overcome objections from people, what to say, how to introduce yourself and initiate with people, how to generate new business. It was very, very good. It was very difficult for me because, as I said, I was an introvert at the time, and I don't think it was a really good fit with my personality. But the training that I got there and the lessons that it taught me about business were incredibly valuable. And I was at that job for 1.5 years. As I said, I was terrible at it. I came close to starving because I wasn't making any money selling things. But my sales manager at the time, he would say to me, Greg, says, everybody that you sit down with buys from you because people really like you.
Oh, wow.
And they really trust you.
Okay.
He says, you just don't sit down with enough people because you're petrified to make phone calls. And I was like, yes, that pretty much sums up my career at London Life.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had real phone aversion. I was very scared of initiating with people, partly because I was young and I was afraid and it was outside my comfort zone. And partly because it just wasn't my natural personality. I struggled at it. Some other people who were more outgoing, extrovert type people did much better in that role. But it taught me a lot, and it was very valuable.
Okay. Yeah. So what do you think what do you think is like the best lesson that you have learned from this sales school, though? Because you said you learn a lot about business, in this sales school. Like, what kind of thing that you feel is very beneficial and very very influential for you as a business person later on?
Yeah, I think it was probably initiating with people was very good for me. And I think just in the broader sense of understanding how business works, that, like I said, nothing really happens in business until somebody sells something.
Yeah.
And it's terrible that you come out of business school, and maybe I just wasn't paying attention, but it was like to understand what that business process looks like, that somebody goes out, sells something, then there's a fulfillment of whatever they've sold and an ongoing relationship, and how that works and the work that it takes to actually get out and sell something, I think was just very eye-opening for me. But I understood that there was kind of like, you have a product and you have to be able to clearly articulate what your product is. What is it that you're offering the market? And what is the kind of person that will come and want that kind of product? And I think that kind of thinking helped me as I got into my consulting practice later on, which is say, okay, well, what is it that I'm actually offering here and who needs it? Okay, so now if I can understand that, here's where I am, here's where they are, how do I get from A to B? Or, sometimes when we go through the financial planning process at London Life, we would sit down with people and we'd say, well, where are you right now in terms of your financial house? What does your financial house look like? Where do you want to be? So let's do a little bit of projecting out into the future. And now we can build a plan to get from A to B. And I think just even that part of planning, I think, is very good. And I've used that in business going onwards to say, I can use it personally, right? So I can say, where am I right now? Where do I want to be? And how do I build a plan to get from A to B? And I think just that kind of that way of thinking, I think, has been very helpful.
Okay. But from what your manager said, and also what you said a little bit, it sounded like what you're interested is actually a financial product and the financial planning part. But you just didn't think of the sales part is like
correct,
the crucial part.
Correct. And I know you're going to ask me what my next job was. But I figured out the same thing too. And so in essence, what I said, here I am, I'm kind of navigating the industry a little bit, and I'm understanding that, yes, I like sitting down and doing planning with people. No, I don't like the calling people in the sales part. So I looked around and I could see that the banks, the big banks that we all know, were getting into the financial planning process as well. So it was kind of like really exploding.
Okay.
And the banks understood that they had like millions of customers in their database, and they could simply call them up and offer them financial planning.
Yeah.
And it's not a cold call because that person's already a customer of the bank.
Yeah.
Or people would come in looking for that kind of planning.
Yeah.
So I thought that looked very attractive to me. So at the time, as I was leaving London Life and deciding, I don't think sales is really for me, I was actually interviewing with the banks because they were hiring a plethora of financial planners at that time. And I liked the fact that they already had an existing client base that I could go and tap into. And that seemed like a really good fit for me. So I could just meet with people and help them do financial planning. And you can sell them financial products at the time, but I wasn't cold calling and having to come up with my own market. There is a market of 1 million people already. So.
But did you get into that? Did you put this
And I didn't
plan?
make it. No, that was my plan. And I did not make it there. Because as I'm interviewing for the banks, and I'm in that process, a buddy of mine calls me up out of the blue. A guy I went to high school with. And he said he was doing this kind of IT project management consulting for a company downtown.
Yeah.
And I'd always thought that was really wild that a big company, he was working for a company called West Coast Energy at the time.
Oh yeah, okay.
Which since has become Duke Energy. He was working for them, and he just contracted with them directly. And I was like, I had no idea how you contract with such a big company directly like that. It always kind of intrigued me. And he called me up and he said, I actually need some help on a project that I'm working on. Do you have any availability to come and help? And I was like, well, funny as you say, I just left on life. I'm interviewing with the banks. I am sitting here doing nothing.
Yeah.
And but I said, I have no experience. I have no idea what you're doing and I don't know anything about it. And he said, no problem. I'll tell you how to do everything. And so what they were doing was, it was a type of HR implementation. They were implementing a flexible benefit plan, which is kind of, you have an employee benefit plan, but you get to pick what you want from kind of a suite of products. And back in the day, this is pre-internet, right? So what they were doing was they were developing a little program that they put on a little 3.5-inch diskette, which most people won't even know what that is. But we'd save it on this little diskette and we'd mail it to all the people.
Oh, wow.
So 5,000 people would mail out 5,000 things. They take this diskette and put it in their computer and it would load a program. And on the program, they could pick what benefits they wanted. And then they print out a little piece of paper and sign it and mail it back to us.
Oh.
That was how you picked your benefits.
Okay.
And so they were developing the program for this little diskette. And he said, I need somebody to come and test it. And I was like, okay. I knew nothing about software. I knew nothing about anything. And he just showed me what to do. So he showed me here's the specifications for the software. So now we're going to write a test plan. So every time it says that the software is going to do something, we need to test that. I was like, okay, well, I can do that. So I read through the document and we built out a little test plan. Here's what we're going to test. And then I tested it. And then when it failed, I put an X. And if it passed, I put a check mark. We went back and worked with a vendor to say, hey, it failed on this, this, and this. And they went, okay, let me go back and work on it. And
oh, wow.
That's what we did. I had no clue what I was doing. But I remember when he hired me, he was like, he apologized to me. And he said, Greg, I'm so sorry, but I can only pay you $35 an hour to do this work. Now, this is 1997, like mid-90s. Okay. $35 an hour is the equivalent of $70,000, which was about 3 times what I was making in my previous job. And he's apologizing to me that he can only pay me this much. I thought maybe this is an industry that I need to be in. This sounds pretty good. So I thought I died and gone to heaven in terms of how much money I was making. I really enjoyed the work. It was quite fun. And I was, in essence, self-employed. So I was contracting also directly to West Coast Energy at the time. So I have all sorts of leeway over in terms of when I work, when I come into the office, when I leave. I don't have a manager that's looking over my shoulder. We have a product and a timeline on the project that we need to deliver, but as we could manage ourselves to make sure that we're delivering on time. And I really like that as well. So it kind of gave me the freedom to do that. As I said, I didn't really know what I was doing, but my buddy helped me out on the first project. And he showed me the ropes just in terms of what it was like what he was doing as the project manager. So he's kind of keeping an eye on all the tasks that have to be done and the budget and, interacting with stakeholders and all the stuff that project managers do. But that was my first real introduction to that world. And I really liked it. And the people that I worked with were fantastic. We had a great team. The customer was great. All the people, I still am friends with some of the people that I met there in that very first project. And it was just a really great environment. And as I got doing that, I realized this sounds way better than working at a bank. And so the bank thing kind of fell away a little bit as I continued to do that type of project work.
Okay. This episode is brought to you by JW Music Studio. JW Music Studio is currently looking for piano and guitar teacher. If you're eager to find effective way to instruct private and group lessons, if you also passionately care about a student's personal and musical journey, then you're the one. Please email your resume to jnwmusic@yahoo.ca. We're looking forward to hear from you. So it's interesting though, because like he just let you be the self-employed person at that point. It's kind of like regular. It's like common in your field to
It
do
is
that.
pretty common, yeah.
It is
So a
pretty
lot of the
common.
guys that work on projects even now would be, I guess you can be an employee of the company that's got the project going on.
Yeah.
You get assigned to the project, so you're an employee.
Huh.
But there are an awful lot of guys out there who, and men and women, who are working on project basis in various capacities. So there's
Okay.
all sorts of roles depending on what kind of project that you've got. But there's project managers and business analysts and systems analysts and quality assurance guys and change managers and all sorts of different roles out there. And there's an awful lot of people out there who are self-employed, who contract into these organizations to help them with projects. And it's beneficial to the organization because they know that they have a project that needs to get done, but that project has an end date.
Yeah.
And they're not going to need those people after the end date. So what they don't want to do is go out and hire people as employees, because then they have nothing for them to do after the project is over. True. So it's actually beneficial for the company to hire some temporary people to come in with some expertise that can help them run the project. And then they know once the project is over, all of those people go away. And so it's beneficial to the company as well. And they're willing to pay more for those employees, for those people, because they're only making a short-term commitment to them. Yeah. And they're not providing them with any benefits like vacation benefits or any of that kind of stuff. And they expect them to, and they're not even really providing them much training because they're expecting those people to come in, be trained and know what they are doing and be able to hit the ground running on day one on my project and be effective on the project. Oh, wow. Yeah. So there's an expectation that you know what you're doing. And that you bring good skills with you. But there's quite a few people in Vancouver who have worked that way for a long time. And there's even, consulting firms that are set up where me as an independent consultant could go to a consulting firm and they'll find a project for me. Oh, wow. And then I contract either through the consulting firm or directly to the customer. And maybe the consulting firm takes a cut of what's going on or gets paid something to help find that. But there's even those kind of firms out there that if you're an independent will help you find work out there if you can't find your own work. Wow. There's a whole industry that kind of exists outside of that normal employee-employer. Kind of sphere. Yeah, exactly. Okay.
But how do your parents feel? What did they say now? You before you had a job, like a regular job. Now you're self-employed, kind of stepping into like entrepreneur.
It's interesting. So my parents come from a generation, as baby boomers, that what happened was you graduated school, you got a job, and a lot of people would stay at the same company for their entire career. Yeah. Or maybe you might move once. Yeah. But it was like you made a commitment to a company, they made a commitment to you, and you worked somewhere for, like my dad worked at IBM for 30 years. And that was more the norm back then. But I'm Generation X. And Gen X was kind of the first one where it was like, this isn't going to be the way it works for you, right? Like employers are not making that kind of commitment to employees anymore. But likewise, employees are not willing to make that kind of commitment to employers anymore. Yeah. And they're more likely to move around to find stuff that suits them. Yeah. And I remember this was, my dad didn't, I shouldn't say my dad didn't really understand that. It was new to my dad. Okay. And so he didn't really understand this concept that I might move around until one day he was reading a news article in the paper. And it was about this new Generation X and the things that were going to be different for them. And one of the things it said was, it will not be uncommon for Gen X to have 6 to 8 different jobs in their lifetime. And that was quite different from my parents' generation, right? And I remember my dad read that and he said to me, he goes, he says, I get it now. I get it now. Yeah. Like this is your generation is not my generation and is not the same. And I think it was good for him to see that come from somebody else. It was like some external validation that this is okay. Like this is the way it is now. And so, my dad never really, I think once he understood that it was just a different generation and different framework for how we were going to work, that he understood. And then he was like, okay, I get it now. And it's like, you are going to move around and it's not going to be the same as it was. And that's okay. And it's I think it's even different now for younger people. It's completely different even when I was a kid. Now you say 6 to 8 different jobs. There
probably even more.
6 to 8 in a couple of years. Right? Like it's crazy now, right?
Yeah, it's
different.
common. It's common for them to change a lot of job in their lifetime.
Yeah.
Actually. But then how did you move from like a QA guy, basically the quality assurances person, you know, in a project, to run your own project? How do you jump from there to there?
Crazy. Yeah. So we complete that project. My friend moves on, so he's got other work to do somewhere else. This customer, West Coast Energy, that we're working at, says, well, we actually have this other project that's related to what you guys have done. Would you be interested in managing it? And I went, sure. And I turned to my friend and said, I have no idea how to do that. Like, I have no clue what it means to be the project manager. It was a smaller project, so it was a good one to get started on.
Yeah.
But yeah, my buddy just kind of helped me set up what you need to do at the beginning of a project and kind of said, here's how we're going to do it. And away we went. And I kind of learned as I was going, to be honest with you. It was helpful that I knew the people at the company already. So I was working with some people that I was familiar with. So it was kind of like I eased into it a little bit. But it really was like, do you want to manage this project? And I kind of learned as I was doing it. And some days I felt like I was one day ahead of what I needed to know to run the project. So yeah, but I kind of learned as I went. It was a little bit of trial by fire. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But how come, like, of all the people working the project, did you ever think like why they asked you, not anyone else?
So on that project, there were 3 consultants. There was my buddy who was the project manager who had left. I was doing the quality assurance. And we had another guy who I'm still friends with who was a programmer. So he didn't really have any interest in being a project manager.
Okay.
So I was the only one left. So it was either they were going to have to go find somebody else. And I felt like I did a good job. So it was a good fit for me, and we did a good job in that project. And I think the customer was happy with it. And they were okay. They knew that I was a little bit green in terms of my experience, but they were okay with that. And they were like, okay, well, so you got to figure it out, but we're willing to take a chance on you. Yeah.
It is also shocking that you just have the confidence to say yes, though. You actually have.
It's not confidence. It's the stupidity of youth, I think is what it is. Like, I didn't know any better at the time. I was so happy that I was making $35 an hour. That I was like, I'll do whatever you want me to do. So, no, it was a bit of like, if I had the same opportunity now where I'm older and probably a little bit more risk averse, I don't know if I would do that. But yeah, when you're young, you just go for it. Sometimes you don't know any better.
But well, I mean, it is true. Like, since like you were saying, like the first project is about like flexible benefit and all that. That is kind of like what you did in London Life. It
was very similar.
Yeah.
So I had some background in terms of what benefits were. Like, I understood that side of it. Yeah. I had never done an enrollment of people actually going to.
But then the project after is also like related to this.
I ended up doing a few projects for that one company. So I was there for like 5 years, I think. Yeah. And it was all related. So it was either, benefits or pension, or then Duke Energy came in and took over, and there was a bunch of project work that needed to happen around that. They had an employee share purchase plan, which again kind of falls under the benefits umbrella. And that all changed because all of the West Coast Energy shares went away and all the Duke Energy shares came in. So it was all kind of HR-ish and with ties into payroll. And so it was kind of stuff that I kind of understood the industry. I just never really done any of that specific work before.
Okay. How do you feel like, when you're running a team and everyone's looking for direction for you, but you really have no idea what to do? Like, did you ever feel that, or like, what did you do about that?
I felt that every day. It was, fear is a good motivator sometimes too, right? Like, I really, like, looking back, I didn't manage those projects well.
Really?
Based on 20 years of experience now on this side of that.
Okay.
Right? So, but you learn as you go. Like, I was a younger kid, and sometimes I think that happens in multiple industries is when you start your job and you start out in your career, you think you know a lot. You don't really know a lot. And you learn a lot as you go, right? And I think there were some bumps along the way, and I made a bunch of mistakes, and I learned from them. And, eventually along the way, I had some projects that went a little sideways, and probably because I didn't do a good job in certain areas, but you look back and you learn from your mistakes. And I think just giving yourself the freedom a little bit to know, like, I think there's a lesson that I've learned as I got older is that when I talk to younger people now, I say, it's okay to make mistakes, right? Like, you're a young person. It's actually expected of you to make mistakes. There's nobody that's my age that's looking at a 20-year-old thinking, well, you better have it all figured out and have everything perfect, because it's just not true. Right? And so I think that you just have to be okay with the fact that that's inevitable as you learn. Give yourself a little bit of a break, and so you're not super hard on yourself and expect perfection when that's not a realistic goal for you as you're learning an industry and a job. And I think that's kind of where I was. Like, it was, I do my best, but yeah, there are times when I made mistakes. There are times when the customer looked at me like I was crazy. Like, why didn't you think of this before? And I was like, well, because I've never done this before. I would never say that, right? But that's what I'm thinking in my head is like, whoops, okay, so let's be a little bit of a quick learner here and do our best and work hard. Like, I worked hard in those days to make sure we were doing a half decent job.
So would you say like study of your own mistake is like what helps you to be adaptable at that situation?
Oh, for sure. Like, if you think of your life as one big long learning experience, I think that is a really good way to look at things. Like, I am always getting better, not only at my career, but even personally, right? I'm a better person than I was 30 years ago. I think that it's okay. I encourage my kids to try stuff and make mistakes and kind of, it's like, I don't know. Everybody thinks that they have to be on the right path all the time, and it's can't possibly make a mistake. I'm like, when you're 20 years old, your whole life should be a bunch of mistakes. Right? It should be like, you should be courageous enough to be trying stuff that you fail at, and it's okay, because that's the best way for us as human beings to learn. And I would say, like, never be afraid of going out and trying stuff, even if it fails miserably. It's never a complete failure, because you always learn something. You either learn something about the work you were doing and how you would do it better, or you learn something about yourself and how you contributed to that not being really good, and what can I do in the future. Like, I don't know, there's no end to the learning opportunities that we have. I think you got to embrace them, especially when you're younger.
You had a few projects got canceled, just like what you were saying in the beginning of your consulting business, or your consulting career. Can you share a little bit about like what happened actually?
That's a nice way to say that I had a project canceled, because I got fired once.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So again, early on in your career, it was a different kind of project, and I didn't have a lot of experience in doing software development. It was a software development project, and to be honest, if I look back on it, we did a terrible job. I did a terrible job managing it, and what happened was we were not getting the results we wanted from the software. Well, there's an endless list of mistakes that we made on this project, and as the project manager, I own them all. But we did not define well enough what the scope of the project was, which is, especially when you're doing software development, that will be the death of your project.
Oh, wow.
I was not good at scope, at defining scope, and we made a bunch of mistakes in defining scope. So we had a very broad and open scope for our project. First major mistake. Then we contracted with a very poor vendor, which I was part of the team that selected that vendor, so I own that one as well. They were not real good. They were using a software that was not an industry standard, and a bunch of other red flags that we should have seen at the time. Then as we got into the project, they were not delivering what we thought they should deliver, but the contract that we had with them was an hourly contract as opposed to a fixed price contract. Again, another mistake when we put that project together. And so costs were escalating, costs were ballooning, and we weren't getting good software delivered from them. And ultimately, they canceled the project and they fired the team. So they fired me and they fired like 4 other guys. And it was a surprise. The project was not going well, but I did not see getting fired coming into the explanation there. And so that was a real shock for me. And that was a real eye opener that, we got, I can still picture it. They invited us all into one of the senior executives' office, and they fired us all at the same time.
Oh, wow.
They said, back up your stuff and get out. And I was really hurt by that. It was a very difficult time. Looking back on it now, absolutely deserved. It was a terrible project, and I would never manage a project like that again. It was a great learning experience for me, but it was very difficult. And I had a wife and 3 kids, 3 little kids at home at the time. And I remember I had 2 projects going on at the same time.
Yeah.
And so I got fired from that project. I went to my other customer and I said, good news is that I've got a lot more time now to devote to your project. And they said, bad news, we're actually canceling this project too. And I went, and in the space of like a couple of months, I lost both the contracts.
Oh, wow.
And I went from full-time to 0. And yeah, I can remember there were some real stressful times around that.
Wow.
That I did, it was very difficult. That was more, we were doing a good job on that project. That was more, I was working in the forestry industry at the time. And that it was a very difficult time in the forestry industry. And they were laying off people just from an economics perspective.
Yeah.
And so it really had nothing to do with our project or our people. We were doing a good job on that one. But the economics just got in our way. And they said, we just can't afford to keep this going. So we're shelving it. And we may look at it later, but we may not.
So when was that?
2008-ish.
Okay, 8 and 9. So the financial crisis.
The financial crisis really came up and bit me on that one. Yeah, from that project. The other one, I got fired. We deserved to get fired on that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, the forestry industry was going through some tough times, and that was very difficult because now I'm unemployed, and there's no work out there.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, that was the one difficult period that I really had.
Okay.
Contracting where I did not have work.
Well, I know it is very difficult, and then the other thing is like, it definitely hurt your confidence a little bit too, right? Probably you have like, you're asking questions about this, but like, is this good for you? Like, are you good at it? But how did you climb out of that though?
Well, dude, when you got mouths to feed, you you climb out of it. And so, like I said, it was very difficult for me to find work consulting wise. I actually ended up taking a full-time job at ICBC in 2010, 2009, 2010, somewhere in there. And I worked there for a year and a half because I could not find any contracts. There was no work out there that I could find at the time. And so I took a job that I really didn't enjoy, but I needed to make some money because like I said, I had mouths to feed at home. So sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And I looked at it as a temporary, I need to get a job to make some money so that once kind of the economy rebounds and I can go, my goal was always to go back into the consulting world, which is in essence what I did after a year and a half at IBM. I left when I found another contract.
Yeah. So you did that after a year and a half, then like, in ICBC, basically, that is other like consultancy job, come up and then you just
get back to it. I was kind of keeping my eye out for contracts around, and I found a company that was doing a payroll and an HR implementation, and I was like, this is exactly up my alley, and I interviewed for it, and they were happy to have me come. So that was the end of my end of my career at ICBC.
Okay. But like, it takes you about a year to find this job, or like
it took that long, I think, just for kind of the economy to rebound. So projects, in my experience, a lot of projects, especially if they are not mission critical projects for a company, that expense will get shelved when times are tough. So the amount of projects will tend to dry up as times get tough, and then as times rebound again, then the projects will come back. And so that was kind of what I found, especially like a payroll and HR, because they're not necessarily mission critical type projects. They will typically get funding when times are better, not when times are tough. They'll be one of the first to go, so.
But how did you I understand, like, you got another job and everything, but how did you get back the confidence, to get back to consultancy? It sounded like quite a disaster.
It was. I think a couple of things. I always liked consulting and I liked the part of it. We didn't do a good job on that project. As I mentioned, that was software development, which was a little bit outside of what my core focus was or should have been. And I think that's a lesson that I learned as well, which is when you're young and you want business, you'll take any kind of project. And I think as you get older and more experienced, you become more focused in terms of, and developing your own personal niche in terms of, this is what I like, this is what I'm good at, and I want to get more and more of this kind of project.
Mm.
So I think it was good for me in that I went away from the software development, and I said, payroll and HR is really where I should be. It's really what I enjoy. It's really what I'm good at. And let's see if we can get back into that side of the industry, which is what I did when I came back into the consulting.
But it sounded like to me, it's like, okay, well, I learned from my mistake. Let's just move on. Like, is that how you feel?
Well, I think some of the lessons that I learned in that project apply to all projects.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy software development as much as I did payroll, and but I think the lessons like how to manage a project and defining scope is something that's important on any project that you work on. And so, and the kind of vendor that you choose and how you set up the contract, these are all things that I could still apply to payroll and HR. I just enjoyed the subject matter better in payroll and HR.
But personally, it didn't hit you at all, though. It sounded like you say.
I don't know. I mean, if you make mistakes, you can beat yourself up forever if you want. You can let it be a dead end for you to say, "Oh, I went down that road and it kind of hurt, and I got slapped around a little bit, so I'm never going down that road again." Yeah. Or you could say, "Well, I went down that road and it hurt. I learned some lessons, so that if I go down this road again, I would do it different." And I think that's kind of how I looked at it. I'm not afraid to go down the road again, but I'm getting better at what I do. From your mistakes, you can get better. And that's kind of what I looked at. And so I learned some valuable lessons, and I'm a much better project manager now than what I was.
Okay. As I'm talking to you, I'm just very surprised that, for example, your first project, actually your friend helping you to set up all of this thing, right? You're telling him like, okay, well, the customer's asking me to do another project, and then you just ask him to help, and he's willing to help you. Mm-hmm. And at times you might need to ask the vendor, okay, what you're going to do, like what kind of thing, how should I finish this project well? It sounds like a lot of people are willing to give you advice on the way, Is it true you rarely have rejection, when you ask people advice for this kind of area?
Yeah, I actually think that most people are good people.
Okay.
And I think that if you ask someone for help and if you know exactly what you're looking for, I think that most people out there, at least that I've come across in the business world, are very nice people. Like they are regular people. And I think that if you have a genuine question, people are willing to help you. I've always found that people are quite friendly. I rarely have come up, to say even people who are other project managers in the industry that I work in. Yeah.
Like your competitor.
My competitors. I'm very friendly with them.
Yeah.
Like I know a number of people who manage projects in the payroll world, and they're all great people. And sometimes we sit and compare notes and say well, how would you deal with this, or how would you deal with that? And I think there's enough work out there that it's okay, right? And I mean, probably there are some cutthroat people out there who have no interest in helping out their competitor. And I understand that different businesses are different. But in my world, I've always found that people are quite helpful if you want to ask.
Wow.
And there have been lots of people where I would say, "Hey, could I buy you a coffee, or could I take you out for lunch? Because I have a question that I want to ask you."
Yeah. And
I think if you're respectful of people's time and you have a question that they can answer, a lot of people are very willing to help. And I look at it now, I'm in my 50s now. And if a young person came to me and said, "Hey, could you give me some advice or help me starting this or doing that?"
Yeah.
Sure. I have no problem, right? I think a lot of people understand that mentoring a younger generation is a really good thing to do. And it's actually, I would say it's a responsibility of people our age to give back to the next generation. And I would have no problem if somebody said, "Hey, respectful of somebody's time," right? I'm not asking them to meet with me 14 times over the next 6 months, but could I ask you some questions? Could you help me on this? Could you give me a bit of direction? I have this problem. What do you think are some solutions or a good way out? Absolutely. I think I had a lot of experience in managing projects, and I'm more than willing to pass that on to anybody that would ask. Yeah. And I've always found that as I've asked people, they are willing to help me too.
Oh, it's amazing. Because a lot of time, when you think in the business world, you just want to withhold information is proprietary, like the word they always say.
Yeah. I think that this is my personal opinion now.
Yeah.
I think that shows real weakness of that person. I think it's a fear of that person that if I share what I know, it's going to end up to hurt me. I actually think if I share what I know, it actually helps everyone. And it's like, I don't think like, I don't think a lot of the stuff that I've learned in project management is a super big secret, right? Like other people know it, and it's how you manage a project. There's good principles for how to manage a project, and people taught them to me, and I'm happy to teach them to other people. Like, I've never really thought of it as
really, wow.
Yeah, well, this person could come and take my job. I never really like. I'm not insecure that way.
Okay. Hi. So I know recently you have also started a second business, but for the time we don't have time to talk about that. But at this point, though, how do you view your career? You have done many things. Working as an employee, doing sales. 100% commission from sale too.
Yep.
As a self-employed person, like an entrepreneur, running your own project. How do you view your career at this point?
I mean, I'll be honest with you. There are people who live to work and people who work to live. I am a work to live type of person, right? So I'm very blessed in that I have had a career that I enjoy, that has produced a good income for me, and it's allowed me to provide for my family. And to me, my career is really, I see it as just a way to provide. And it's good that I feel fulfilled as I do it, and I enjoy it. I think that's important, because if you're going to get up every morning to do something, probably a good idea that you like it in some way. But I've liked it. I've had a lot of freedom in my career, because being self-employed, I get to choose what projects I want to work on, who I want to work with, what hours I want to work, how I do the work. I'm fortunate in that even well before COVID, I transitioned my practice to I work from home. So I do almost all my work from my own office. So I see my kids all the time, which is great. And I see my wife all the time, which is great. And it's been a good fit for me. And I've been very happy that way. Like, will people remember my name long after I've died as a pioneer in the project management world? No, they won't. But I'm fine with that, right? That's not really why I had a career. It was mostly because I kind of enjoyed the work, and I liked the people that I worked with, and I made a good income that I could provide for my family. So that's really what I look for as kind of a successful career.
Wow. And I think it is pretty fair to say that you have a successful career of this.
I think so. I'm pretty happy, right? Like, I look back, there's a lot of years that I worked a lot of hours when I was working on difficult projects. There's a lot of years that I was working on client site. So I was getting up early in the morning, fighting the traffic for an hour to go downtown, and then working all day and fighting the traffic to come home. And I was tired, and it was hard to spend time with the kids. There's a lot of those years too. But I think in general, I'm pretty happy with the way things have worked out. And like you said, I've recently started another business, which is completely different from the consulting business. And I think part of that is I like the project world because I get a little bored of doing the same thing all the time. And so I like projects because I know that this project will last a year and it will be done. And then I can move somewhere else, and I can work with another team of people, and the work might be slightly different, but it's just different. And I like that. I like that it's different. And so I'm kind of always looking for something that's a little different. And so,
Oh. Well, it's a lot more to talk with, but thanks so much to come here. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Pleasure to do it, Jeffrey.
Thank you.